What happened in the previous chapter was we moved on to the second stage of Mash's trial. What he had to do there was to defeat 100 armored knights of various levels. Meanwhile, Lance and Dot underwent training prepared by Wahlberg for them, and it turns out that their tutor will be Orter Maddle. Finn decided to help Mash, so he ran to Wahlberg's office. However, he got cold feet and couldn't proceed. Suddenly, Caldo arrived and asked him what he was doing there. He also asked if he was Rain's brother, to which he agreed. Innocent Zero, on the other hand, prepared a powerful army of evil for the upcoming war. Lance and Dot's trial was to protect 3 200ml water bottles from Orter while in an unusual place within a week. Mash, on the other hand, was able to defeat the 10th level, which amazed Meliadel. They laid down for a bit and had a conversation. When Mash returned to training, Ochoa couldn't figure out why Mash kept fighting, even though he was up against Innocent Zero. Ryo explained that Mash was filled with gratitude for his father and his friends. He believes that Mash's lack of magic led him to be more appreciative of the goodness shown by other people and how rare and valuable it is. In the end, Ochoa simply said that it was just a simple dream. What's up, Onii-Chan? Welcome back to our manga recap series about Mashle, Magic and Muscles, which is a mix of Harry Potter and One Punch Man in its story. So let's start the video. As we continue the exciting story of Mash in a world full of magic, we return to Lance and Dot's training under Order. Dot was on the verge of tears, thinking that only 3 days had passed and it was already like this. The challenge was to protect 3 water bottles for a week, and he had 1 broken right from the start. And now he only has 1 left. But there's Lance. He still has plenty of water left, and he's drinking it in front of him. Dot was tempted as Lance drank. After drinking, Lance immediately looked away from Dot, which annoyed him, and he remarked that Lance had a bad attitude. Suddenly, a projectile of sand came towards his face. Orter bombarded him with attacks which surprised him. In his mind, it was tight and he still needed to watch both the sand and his bottle at the same time. Orter commented that whether it was Wahlberg's request or not, Dot and Lance were too weak to be anything other than a burden. Because of this, Dot was intimidated. Their existence was apparently meaningless, and it would be better if they just died. Dot was shocked and said, "Say what?" Orter explained that he was speaking objectively about their worth. It wasn't personal. He added that the same logic applies. Allowing him to exist would bring a bigger disadvantage in the future. They needed to prune some wilted buds to maintain the order of the world. That's how the order operates. So that's the reason why he cuts off headaches like them for the greater good. If they didn't like that rule, they should become stronger. However, they lacked the power to do that. Orter continued his attack while explaining that's the reason why whatever they say is worthless. As Dot was being bombarded by Orter's attacks, he thought everything Orter said was true. He admitted he was weak. His strength wasn't enough to say Orter was wrong. However, there was something he wanted to say. He didn't care if he would die there. He would never be a burden to anyone. And he was going to make Orter realize that he was wrong to doubt him. Because he had guts. He immediately released a lot of magic in the area while he was angry. Orter just stared at that. In Dot's mind, it was easy to say those words, but it was still hard to block all of Orter's spears. Lance then came to the rescue and shattered Orter's attack. He said that he agreed with Dot. He would never be a burden to others, and he was ready to risk his life for his brother. There was a chemistry between our 2 comrades, and they were able to stop Orter's attacks. While watching the 2, Orter noticed that they were dividing their defense to keep their remaining water safe. Orter remembered a man who seemed to have the same attitude as those 2. He used to say that when it came to passion, he could never be defeated. He would do everything he could for the world and its inhabitants. After that, he just said, He stopped attacking and said they still had 4 more days and they were going to the next step. Because of that, Dot and Lance were puzzled. The next scene, we went to Finn, who was in a kitchen, cutting something. In his mind, he said he asked Caldo what he could do to help others, but he was just made to cut fish for 3 days. He realized that this was training for food service. After he finished cutting, he gave it to Caldo. Caldo then commented that Finn's technique was improving. Suddenly, Caldo poured honey on the sashimi, which disgusted Finn. After Caldo tasted it, he exclaimed,
Yum 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 yum! Delicioso!
Finn was left dumbfounded. After that, Caldo said they were moving on to the next stage. Finn was confused and thought to himself, isn't he supposed to be studying magic? In the next scene, our protagonist was shown with a smoking fist. It turned out he had just defeated a giant armored knight. It was also shown that our protagonist was full of bruises. In Meliadel's mind, she said that she was continually amazed by Mash's speed. He managed to do something that would take other people a year, but it only took him 10 days. Perhaps Mash could perform techniques that even she couldn't learn. Meliadel told Mash that he had fought enough armored knights and they would move on to the third stage. Mash would now be training with Meliadel personally. Our protagonist then asked when Meliadel had changed her clothes. After that, our comrades continued their training for the impending battle, and their confrontation was gradually approaching. In Meliadel's mind, she said there were only 3 days left until the eclipse. She believed they could reach their goal. Elsewhere, Innocent Zero's army of evil began to mobilize. He said that they were preparing Mash for the eclipse, but they didn't know their plan. It was a mistake that would cost them their lives. They were shown approaching the city while Mash was still training. The scene then shifted to the struggling Dot and Lance. A chaotic place was shown. Soon, our comrades collapsed from fatigue from the training. Orter approached them, which made Dot turn around. Orter told them to improve at least a little. In Dot's mind, he said he didn't expect to last a month under Orter. He didn't want to admit it, but their training really yielded results. Dot stood up and commented that Orter's display was okay, and he called him Buddy. Because of that, Orter punched him in the stomach with sand. Orter said that when they finished there, he would kill both of them, and Dot should not call him Buddy. Then Dot said,
Oh man!
Orter suddenly brought out some food. Dot was surprised, and Orter explained that it was a parting gift, and they should eat it to recover their strength. While Dot was chewing, Lance was just staring. Lance suddenly asked what was driving Orter's hatred towards non-magic users. Orter replied that it was the rule and he couldn't simply let it be. So did that mean for him the establishment of a society is a thoroughly thoughtful process with no room for personal emotion? Dot then commented that Orter didn't seem so bad after all, and he was sure they could get along if they bonded over food. He invited Orter to join them for a meal, and when he turned around, Orter seemed to remember a man in a similar situation. After that, Orter simply said he already ate. They thanked him profusely for the food nonetheless. Lance also said he should accept his gratitude. Although he didn't agree with his perspective, Orter was still a great help to them. As he walked away, Orter told them to do whatever they wanted. In the next scene, Finn was shown focusing intently on casting magic on a rabbit. Soon he managed to save it, and it opened its eyes. Because of this, he was amazed at what he had done. Caldo arrived and said he didn't expect Finn to reach that level in just a month. He also commented that Finn had talent. Finn was left staring. Caldo explained that his personal magic ability, which can swap things, is perfectly suited for healing magic. While staring, Finn thought Caldo seemed to be complimenting him, but he couldn't process anything beyond how much syrup he was putting in his coffee. Caldo said there's nothing better than freshly ground coffee. Finn was shocked and realized Caldo had been referring to coffee all along. He then asked him if he was ready to move on to the last step, to which he agreed. In Caldo's thoughts, he said Finn's power was as special as Rain's. If he continued like this, Finn could become a valuable asset to them. Suddenly, Rain entered and wanted to say something about the head of the bureau, but when he noticed Finn, they locked eyes. Rain asked what Finn was doing there. There was a brief silence, and Finn explained that he just wanted to be useful to others. Rain seemed to be stalking him and said, "Him? Be useful?" If that was a joke, it was a really bad one. Rain asked Finn to leave and said that place was not for him. In the next scene, we moved on to our protagonist's practice. The scattered rocks around him were shown. When the smoke cleared, a giant hole in front of our protagonist was also shown. Damn, it's huge! Meliadel thought it was hard to believe that only a month had passed, and Mash had already surpassed her expectations. While she was looking at him, Mash suddenly drooled, leaving Meliadel puzzled. Soon, Mash collapsed on the floor. Meliadel and Ochoa immediately ran to him. Meliadel held him and told him he needed to get up. She also slapped him to wake him up. She even punched him really hard to wake him up. In the end, our protagonist's head just bled after receiving those blows. Upon closer inspection, Meliadel noticed that Mash's injuries were severe. He was probably more tired than she thought. Even if she used her super special magic, it would still take 2 days to heal Mash. So she also realized that now was the worst time for their enemies to attack. Suddenly, the scene shifted to people running. They were asking for help. It appears that the enemies have invaded the city and the forces of darkness have already charged in. Meanwhile, at the Bureau of Magic, a report came in that Innocent Zero was attacking the town. The vice director couldn't believe it because the eclipse was still 2 days away, so they shouldn't have been able to attack that early. Bless immediately ordered Onii-Chan to contact the Divine Visionaries. The scene then shifted to Innocent Zero's base, and he said it had begun. So now he was also preparing. He said that world exists for him, so it will serve to keep him alive. And with that, this video ends. Do you think our protagonist will recover in time? Will we ever find out why their clothes always seem to float, even when there seems to be no wind? Write your comments down below. If you want more anime and manga recaps, don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated on new videos.